Hi, I'm DuEwa, and you're listening to episode 48 of Nerdacity podcast. Today, my guest is poet Derrick Weston Brown. Derrick holds an MFA in creative writing from American University. He is the founding poet in residence of Busboys and Poets. Derrick is a graduate of the Cave Canem and Bono summer workshops and is a participating author in the Penn Faulkner Foundation's Writers in Schools program. His work has been published and featured in such print journals and online publications as Race Bedar, Color Lines, and Bayou Magazine. His debut collection of poetry, Wisdom Teeth, was released in 2011 through PM Press. His second collection of poetry, a chapbook entitled On All Fronts, was released along with two other poetry chapbooks in a bound series from Upper Rubber Boot Press entitled Floodgates Volume 5, March of 2019. Derrick is an adjunct professor of English at Prince George's Community College in Largo, Maryland, and a creative writing teacher at the Duke Ellington School of the Arts. You can follow Derrick on social media on Facebook or Instagram at the original Derrick Weston Brown, or visit his website at derrickwestonbrown.com. I hope you enjoy this episode. Greetings, Derrick.
Hello.
How are you doing, Mr. Weston Brown?
I'm pretty good. I am well.
Wonderful. We have a poet here to National Poetry Month with me. I'm going to give a round of applause. I don't know if people can hear me. I wish I had the applause sound, that the radio hosts use, because it gets real crazy and gregarious. But in any case, thank you so much for joining me here on Nerdacity podcast.
Well, thanks for having me.
Sure. And, Derrick, you and I go way back. I feel like we've been in the same circles and orbit and universe for quite a while. Appreciate that we have a number of things in common. You're an HU grad, Hampton University. I'm an HU
real
grad.
HU, yes, that's right.
HU. Okay, see, I wasn't going to say it. I'll let you say it.
I'll take the heat. I am in DC, so I know it's coming.
You're a native of Charlotte, and I spent some time there teaching and doing an internship there in education. So, and then of course, you're a wonderful poet. You're always doing great things in the community, doing readings. You've received many fellowships, and I know that you've done a lot with Hurston Wright Foundation, and that's like one of my favorite literary arts foundations. So I just want to give you kudos and congrats on your work, on your published books. On your chapbook, On All Fronts, your chapbook, that was released in 2019.
Yep.
And you also have Wisdom Teeth, a beautiful collection released in 2011. And yes. I know that you continue to publish in various publications, such as please pronounce this. Is it Patuxent?
Patuxent.
Patuxent.
Yes.
Is it me? Am I just so country, or
I ain't got nothing to do with that.
Okay. I had never heard anyone actually pronounce it, so I appreciate that. Color Lines, the This Mag, and Vinyl Online. You've been nominated for a Pushcart Prize. And of course, we know you've received fellowships from Cave Canem, Bono Voices. I'm sure you've done fellowship workshops with Hurston Wright. Am I correct?
Yeah, just recently, this month. Yeah.
Wow, that's so awesome. And you're a graduate from the MFA in Creative Writing degree program from American University in Washington, D.C. So, wonderful credentials all the way around. Please talk to us about where are you as an artist and as a poet right now in your life? We're somewhat out of this pandemic. We're quote unquote outside. We were doing, virtual readings, virtual workshops for the past couple of years. And now, the readings are being in person, and now we can go to AWP and all these really cool conferences in person. So what is that? What is this time like for you right now as a writer and artist?
Well, that is a good question. What is this time like? like what is the time right now for me as a writer and an artist?
Yes.
I think as a artist, it's understanding that I have other outlets other than poetry. Um, and when I mean other outlets, I mean there's different genres that I write in. I'm writing a children's book right now. I'm trying to finish the story itself.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
so that's been really cool and interesting going back to where it all started for me as far as storytelling, even before poetry. I'm a child of they're librarians and elementary school teachers all through my family, but above all else, they were great storytellers. And I spent many a weekend with my aunt at the public library that she managed. So I had my fill and my pick of all the books I wanted. So storytelling has always been a big deal, and then having other writers around me who are doing so many things other than just, I guess, straight ahead poetry, but poetry in verse. I mean, you have, the work of Elizabeth Acevedo, who's, putting out some amazing young adult novels in verse. You've got,
Now,
uh,
she is the author of The Poet X.
yes, the Poet
Oh,
X and
yes.
Clap Before You Land. And I met her here in the DMV, just within the circles of open mics and poetry. And I first met her when I was speaking at a class in GW about African American poetics and performance. And she just
Hmm.
kind of bum rushed the class and sat in and did a workshop, and we had a really good time. So it was cool.
That's wonderful, and I appreciate that you continue, education in terms of you're teaching and you're giving back to other emerging poets and writers. You continue to do that in parallel to your own writing. So what has that been like for you, Derrick, in terms of balancing the educator side of you, the poet, and, not feeling stretched too thin, in either direction?
Hmm. Well, I wish I could say I don't feel stretched too thin, but as the further I go with, trying to have, 2 feet, having one foot here and one foot there, I think it's always a balancing act. Um, yeah, and it's in I say specifically at this time where I'm lucky that I'm teaching the stuff that I know, like whether it's at Duke Ellington, where I'm the creative writing teacher, and I'm, trying to give ninth and 10th graders, tools and resources that other teachers have passed on to me, and I've passed on to them. And at the same time, getting so excited at their potential and seeing the work that they're doing, but then getting home the next day. I mean, getting home later in the afternoon, having taught at Ellington maybe from 2 to 5, and knowing that earlier in the day, I also taught 2 back-to-back classes at Prince George's Community College, teaching, composition in English, and wondering, where do the poems come from? How do I keep that balance? How am I going to apply to certain things? So it's always a struggle to balance everything out, even with this pandemic. So I think the question was you also asked was, um, where am I in this experience? And I'd have to say, I think even before the pandemic, I've always been pivoting, having one foot
Mm.
here and one foot there. I think that's what artists have to do because the market is continuously changing. As for poets, and just watching people who I know as poets who've now shifted to writing fiction, and they're working in multi genres, and it's not just spoken word, but now it's audiobooks. I'm working on an audiobook version of Wisdom Teeth, and the pandemic kind of interrupted that.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it's really just trying to make that work. I'm game, but now that I'm older, I'm also realizing, like, where's that energy I had 10, 15 years ago? I'm not jumping up as quickly as I used
You
to, but
better drink your, what is it? Drink your V8. Drink your, what
VA,
is it? Your green smoothies.
yeah, green smoothies, yeah, hey, and I practice yoga and I meditate. So hey,
Oh, good. Okay. Well, you
mhm.
sound pretty energetic, Derrick. I don't think you have to worry about that because I always see, you're doing a reading here, you're leading a workshop there. What is it? Alicia Keys says this this girl is on fire.
Oh.
Well, in your case, we can say this man is on fire.
Oh, good. What I was saying is the reason why I sound interject because I take naps. Let's just be real.
Okay.
I'm taking naps.
Naps is, you know what? I appreciate you saying that. We underestimate the power and the healing nature and power of naps as adults.
And rest,
People make you feel guilty for wanting or needing to rest. We're in a society that says, go, go, go. And if you're tired or you're yawning, oh, there must be something wrong with you.
But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you go ahead. You were on one, so go ahead. Keep going. I'm with you.
I guess what I'm saying is I so appreciate you not being afraid to say that out loud, publicly or with an audience, because yes, nap is healing. Naps are, good for the mind, body, and soul. If you're like constantly raggedy and burning the candle at both ends, you're not effective. And I don't see how you can be creative either. Yeah,
that whole, I think people are now starting to see, I mean, there's people who've spoken about this before, but that grind culture is going to wear you out. Like you can't, what, people going to put a badge on your gravestone? He worked hard. I mean, it's not.
And I mean, Derrick, that was me for years and years. And I realized, how many times there's nothing cute about burnout. There's nothing cute about constantly staying up all night or saying you're multitasking and you're managing like 8 different projects. It's like, you know what? No one rewards you for that. And I don't think anyone respects you for that. So it's like, you know what? You better take your me time. Because no one's going to give it to you. They're not going to give you permission to do it. Yeah,
and sleep shouldn't be a reward either. I think we have to get out of that. Like, I earned this nap. It's like, no, you lived. You're living. I mean, I've followed and read a little bit about the whole thing about the nap ministry and what that means about rest being revolutionary. But it's a shame that, in this society, rest has to be revolutionary rather than just being mandatory.
Right. You got to give it some extra branding for it to be like, considered cute and sexy. Like, okay, it's nap ministry. Okay, it's revolution. Yeah. All right.
I mean, that's versus someone just saying, sit yourself down somewhere. Sit down. Yeah.
So what else, Derrick? Okay, so you do use the strategy of the nap. And, what else are you finding in this time? Because I hear what you're saying. It's sort of do you ever feel that it's a weird time, a strange time that we're living in? Does it feel different than before the pandemic?
Yes and no. I'll say the societal issues that a lot of people are recognizing now, they've always been there. I think in this time, there are a lot of people who are realizing it now because of the abrupt stop that the pandemic gave to everyone. So you had that moment to just kind of sit down and in some cases sit with your thoughts, or you actually, I think of one of the things I had missed doing. I used to be someone who used to enjoy outside. I have a roof deck in my building, and I spent a lot of time up there because that was really the safest I felt about going outside. Okay. And during that time, I had forgotten what the seasons looked like.
During the pandemic?
During the pandemic. Okay. So it hits around, it was here, but around March is when I think school shut down for me and everything went virtual. Right. But then I would go up on the roof every day because I was like, I need some sunlight, I need some outside. And I hadn't paid attention to, the barren leaves starting to bud. Wow. Each day got a little warmer. The birds that hang out in the little birdhouse on the top of my building came back to make their nests. I'm watching trees fill up. And so the distance that I used to be able to see from the roof deck, I couldn't see as far because now the the leaves have kicked in, and I just found myself so grateful for that. And I was just thinking about how there's a lot we forget when we get caught up in that grind. Um, if anything, I think yes and no, as into like it's just a weird time. It does feel weird. But there used to be this saying, people used to talk about the end of the world, the end of the world, and I from someone else used to say, you know what, the world ends for somebody every day, meaning the world, as each person has their own, something can happen to a person's individual world, and how they used to see the world, that changes. The world as they know it ends. It could be a loss of a parent, it could be an illness, it could be all these things. But I think this was such a collective event of where everybody's world changed drastically. The world that we knew is no more. And so
Come
I think
on,
about
Derrick, preach.
I think
We
about
talking to Pastor Weston Brown today.
yeah, which is ironic that I just found out my great grandfather, on my maternal, my mother's side, like he was running about 3 or 4 churches. So it's very interesting to hear about that. But yeah, the world ends. So when people talk about the end of the world, and then I thought that really hit home for me when the pandemic happened, because I was like, wow, there are places we can't go anymore. There were
Right.
restaurants that shut down. There were
That
places
shut
I used to
down.
congregate and hang out. They were gone. And I also think what ended for a lot of folks, especially when you think about the summer of 2020, was just how people have been walking around thinking, oh, we're in a post-racial society, everything's fine, whereas these are the folks that suddenly, the word woke is been commodified.
But then you
So,
had some people that lost their minds, and you had this
oh
whole
yeah,
term about, the Becky, and then Becky's husband Ken, and all
yeah,
these
yeah.
people that are doing these, various, ridiculous behaviors in public, throwing tantrums about wearing a mask,
Mm-hmm.
calling the police on someone doing bird watching. It just
Mm-hmm.
seemed it was a season of the absurd.
Yeah.
And everybody was ticked off more than usual about something, and it always had to do with race.
Oh yeah.
It was like, geez, can y'all take a day off?
Mm-hmm. Indeed. But I think that's just the thing about it, which is I feel like, and I'm speaking more from my experience, Black people, we've seen this. A lot of us have seen it. We've been within it. We've had to live with it.
Mm.
It's a constant companion. Black people have to be hyper aware, hyper vigilant, that type of thing. And so for other folks to now, they're wilding out because they didn't understand the ability, or never fathomed that their lives could change in an instant. Things get taken away from them, and oh my gosh, you're gonna have to consider somebody other than me. Oh, I don't like that. Yeah.
Wow. So you feel that was a part of the tantrums and the outbursts, that, in other words, I've got to consider other people. I can't
Mhm.
just be my self-centered, narcissistic self,
Yeah.
living
Yeah.
living in a bubble.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
We- I mean, from my perspective, my life philosophy and things is that everybody is connected. That whole thing about intersectionality is true. People fight it. It's like, okay, we're all connected more than we
Yep.
want to. We are, whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not, we are. And that's why,
Hmm.
when you hear people say the human race, isn't
Hmm.
that interesting? We're all of the human race, regardless of our hue, gender identity, and things, and religion, and things of
Yeah.
that nature.
Yeah. But I think the irony is the people, that who would say, "Oh yeah, we're of the human race." I was like, well, then why aren't we treating each other as human beings, that type of thing, or showing, recognizing the other, people's humanity.
Sure.
If we really supposed to, oh, we're the human race, it's like, but we don't treat each other as such. So,
True.
yeah.
And so, thank you for that, Derrick. And so, I'm curious, if you were not a poet and educator, who or what would you be?
Good question. I think it was inevitable. I didn't want to be a teacher, but didn't want to. Like, nope, But it was inevitable. I think that I would be doing some sort of teaching. I'm doing a lot of stuff that I wanted to do when I was younger. Like I wanted to do radio. I haven't made any films yet, but I also like cartoons and acting. I thought maybe an actor. That was one of the things I wanted to do if I wasn't doing poetry and stuff. Performance would still be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had thought about acting, but I was like, I don't know if I could. At the time, I was like, um, sit through auditions and hear no, no, no. Ooh, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
lot of rejection. But you know what, Derrick? But isn't
yeah.
writing and sending your work writing off, isn't that a lot of rejection too?
Yes, it is. So it's like jokes on you, Derek. Guess what?
So
It's
it's
like,
almost like, which rejection bag do you want?
hmm
Which
yeah,
one can
yeah.
you live with?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, well, at one point I wanted to be a stuntman when I was a little kid. My mother was like, "Oh no,
Oh,
yeah,
she didn't want her baby to get hurt.
oh no, not at all." I wanted to be a geologist at one point when I was a kid because I loved rocks and stones, and I loved digging and looking for things. I was obsessed with when I heard about the different types of energy sources, and I heard about geothermal energy as a kid. I thought that was so
Ooh,
amazing because they were like solar power, geothermal energy, like energy from the earth, and I was just so obsessed with that as a kid. And I had a
that is
bunch of
so cool, Derrick.
yeah, there was some science in there, but the math kind of slowed that down. I was not a fan of math, but still,
Hmm.
yeah. And maybe a history teacher or a historian or another thing I thought about is the ethnomusicologists. I've thought about that too. Um,
Ethnomusicologist.
yeah, I love music and the history of music. I'm a fledgling DJ. There's a radio show that I do with two other folks.
Hmm.
It's called Soul Conversations, and we're actually the second iteration of it. It's on the local um, community radio station WPFW.
Oh,
Um,
awesome. Uh-huh.
and so we do like all sorts of different types of soul music from all over the world, indie artists and stuff. And so I started in like '07 with the founders, Kimberly Washington and DJ
Oh,
Yo.
Washington, may she
Yeah,
rest in peace and
rest in peace.
power.
Yes, indeed.
Kimberly was so good to the poetry community. She booked me for WHUR, I'm
For
sure at
Joe's
least
place.
twice, and Gorham also.
Joe's place. Yeah.
Yeah, good,
And that's
good
yeah.
folks. Yep.
Good folks, yeah. And so aside from that, she was a lover of music. So all three of us, she asked me to come on the show as a producer. I always wanted that was my dream to be on a radio show and DJ and
Uh-huh.
play music. And so when Kimberly passed, the question was what's going to happen next. And
Mm.
eventually, Wazio was doing the show. He had another person, but then it ended up happening was he was kind of done. He's like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna do anymore. So
Hmm.
he said, Derek, you think you want to take over? I was like, maybe, but the hope was that I said, well, can I bring on two other people? He said, yeah. So my neighbor, she's 27. Her name is Are We on the Air? She's an amazing DJ with a super old soul. She plays vinyl. And then the other DJ Serenity, we knew each other in college, also went to Hampton, and we both have very similar music tastes. I
Uh-huh.
asked them if they would join the show. They said, yeah. And on Valentine's Day, that was our first show, and we've been rocking ever since.
You're kidding me. Well, Derek, I'm gonna have to hit you back channel though. It's like, come
Oh,
on
yeah,
now,
yeah.
add your sister
Okay.
DuEwa now.
All right, I'll send you the links we have because you can download our shows. It is a podcast, sort of, so
Okay.
you can download the shows. Yeah, I got you. But yeah, that's where I would have. Maybe I would have been a DJ. Who knows? So that's where I
Mm.
would have been if not for poetry. Performance would always have been a part of it.
Yeah.
Music, words, yeah. Hmm.
I love that. And it just sounds like, everything that you mentioned, it has some element of
Mm.
imagination and creativity or wonder,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
about wonder, something about, things that we can discover. Um,
yeah.
so I really appreciate that. And so, Derrick, can you talk about some of your current work, what you've been working on, how you've been translating that into workshops and into some of your wonderful readings that you've been doing in the last, for this new year?
Okay. Let's see. Well, some of the things, shout out again to Dr. Khadija Ali Coleman, director of the Hurston Wright Foundation.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Khadija, yes.
yes, shout out to her for just all that she's done. And shout out to both of you all, again, for the reading at Coppin around this time last year. That really was my first really out and about reading,
Okay,
since
that
the
you being
pandemic.
out, you being outside, huh?
Yeah, that was my first real outside reading, and it was so good, just to have that happen, and
Uh-huh.
it felt right back, felt like being right back at home. But what
Sure.
have I been working on? The poems come when they want. I've been writing some with my students. What try to do is when I give them an exercise, I try to write along with them. So I've been doing a little flash fiction. I have a children's book. The story I'm still finishing it up. It's called Yoga Bruh. You
Oh, I
know,
love that.
yeah, so YOGABRUH. Um, and it's about a 9-year old kind of um, it being introduced to and making peace with this weird thing he sees his uncle doing called yoga. And he goes,
Mm.
when he first hears it, he's like, yogurt? And his uncle's like, no, yoga. And then the kid says, Yoda? And the uncle says, no, yoga. And the kid goes, yodel? And the uncle's like, no, yoga, bruh, yoga. And so we'll see how this story goes and how this 9-year-old kid kind of, gets introduced to yoga and whether he likes it or not, or if he's just gonna observe, or is you might see him, do some tree pose or corpse pose or rest pose. So we'll see.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, what else am I working on? I'm really
Well,
happy to.
quick question, Derrick. Do
Yeah.
you also follow, I believe the Instagram handle is Black Boy OM. It's basically like an Instagram that black men
Mhm.
and boys who do yoga and who really are involved with that lifestyle.
I Okay, so I'll say this. So when I really let me just give some context. So when I really got into yoga, a good friend of mine, Simone Jacobson, had a class called Yoga for Everybody. All
Mm-hmm.
body types, all shapes and sizes. Loved it.
Mm.
So I was following Black Boys Own until I noticed, yeah, young men, and boys, on the site. But I didn't notice a lot of folks shaped like me on that site.
Oh, I see. Okay,
You know,
got you. Yeah.
I am,
The representation was not fully
yeah,
okay, got you.
yeah. So I would say, being a man of husk, as I would say,
Yeah.
I was like, hey, okay, I know some brothers out here about my, we kind of felt, we kind of doing our things,
Right.
but yo, I can do downward dog with the best of them, and yeah, my legs might be a little short, I can also do pigeon pose, and you
Uh-huh.
know, I do headstands and shoulder stands, but I was just like, well, till I see
But
myself.
Derrick, then you be that person then. Sometimes when
Mhm.
the representation isn't there, then you become the representation.
That's true, and I'll tell you how I remedied that, which is, I was asked to be a yoga model or a
Oh.
chart for when this organization that was doing yoga in DC, in the DC jails with men and women, and they needed a chart,
Mm-hmm.
and I became the chart model.
Oh my goodness, I
So
love it.
so I have a copy of it. And I put it up on my Instagram page. I was like, and what I put on it was like, this is what yoga looks like. And so I'm still trying to get my hands on a hard copy of it. But yeah, so in a sense, that was one of the things that I did to show, to rep for my size. And that's also what the children's book is going to represent as well, because the
Mm-hmm.
uncle of the boy, he might bear some resemblance to me.
I
So
love it. Yes, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's right. You write yourself into that, and you give the resemblance, and then it becomes that representation that we need.
Yeah. So I get it. You have to, be the, I forget the saying. It's been used.
Be the change,
Be the
Derrick.
change. Yeah. Oh yeah.
we're we're there, and I'm proud of you for doing that, and for taking up that part of your purpose, seriously, because hey, a younger male or female, some youth will be looking up to you and will use this story, and it will give them validation because they don't know someone else who might be, have the same interests that they do, who looks like that they do.
Yeah. Yeah. True that.
Yeah.
That's
So
my goal.
awesome.
We'll try to make that happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're asking what were some of the other things that are up to. So, aside from that, a couple things that I'm happy to be a part of is there is an anthology that came out 2021, 2022. It is called The Future of Black. And it is an anthology that talks about Afrofuturism and comic books and superheroes.
Oh, I love it. That's Cynthia Manick is one of the editors,
Manic,
right?
yep, and
Yeah.
Lynn Lawson, yep, that whole squad. And
Beautiful collection, and I do appreciate all the work and talent that's in the book. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm happy because I got some poems in there, but quiet as kept. I also do some visual art, and so one of my collages, which is called Stamp Paid, named after one of the characters from Toni Morrison's Beloved, is called Stamp Paid, aka Afro Asiatic Super Saiyan, and so it's just this image. There's a whole lot going on.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's been nice to utilize that. So we've got the piece, the poems, the pieces. I have a couple of poems in this anthology from Cherry Castle Publishing.
Oh, yeah. Cherry Castle. With that would be Where We Stand anthology.
Yes, indeed. Poems for of Black Resilience. It came out about a year and 2 months ago, February 1st, 2022. And so it was cool to have some pieces in there. I did a voiceover, my first voiceover job. That's one of my loves.
Oh,
so
wow.
I did my first voice acting gig for a friend of mine out of Oakland. Out of all the places, she saw me talking about it, and she said, "Derrick, there might be a gig for you. There's a group called Walking Cinema out of Oakland, San Francisco, Oakland, California, and they're doing they do these virtual walking tours where it's audio visually enhanced, so you can put your headphones on, and it's a story, and it's called Before the Bulldozers: Historic Southwest DC Exposed." And so it's an augmented audio and augmented reality journey that talks about, the urban redevelopment of the Southwest Washington, D.C. neighborhood, where, like with many during the 50s and 60s, where all these Black neighborhoods, were gentrified, pushed away. Whether we're talking about, there's an area in Canada, in Vancouver, called Hogan's Alley, which was where Black folks were. There's that section in Baltimore. I forget what that area was called, like the Highway of Nowhere. There used to be a Black neighborhood there, and they pushed it away for a highway. My very own city of Charlotte, on the side of West Charlotte, they pushed Highway 77 through this Black neighborhood.
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Charlottesville, Virginia, there was an area called Vinegar Hill. They cleared that area out because they were supposed to build there, but never really did. So this is you take this walk, and it just plays. It tells you the story of these characters. So I play an actual person that lived. His name was Eggy Cut, and so I play him, and then I also play his grandson years later.
Wow.
And that's produced in partnership with the Smithsonian Anacostia Community Museum. And
I love that. That's like some real serious. So you're like narrating real life people. You're like a narrator.
Well, in this case, voice actor, but I want to
Okay.
get into the narration stuff too. But I'm literally speaking the words of
Mm-hmm.
of this guy, and then how the grandson feels when he's talking to this girl, and he's like, "Yeah, it's your fault that we lost our house." So it's real interesting. So,
Mm.
and they're up for a Webby Award. So I hope they win, because then I guess I win. Look, I get a little touch
Right.
of that Webby.
And then you get, to, brag a little
Yeah,
and
Webby
share.
Award winning voice actor. So we'll
No, for
see.
sure. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so, Derek, would you please, grace us with some of your poems, anything, and even, hey, if you want to share an excerpt of the children's work, feel free. But I'd
Okay.
love to hear some of your work, definitely. Audience.
Okay. I'll share some new stuff with you. I was taking part in the NaPoWriMo thing, the write a poem a day for 30
Mm-hmm.
days. It's been a long time since I've done all 30, but I'll share with you the one that I wrote. I think this was like April 7th, 6th. I ended up I was driving coming from school, and I saw the poet Reuben Jackson chilling in front of this artist's apartment building that I know. So I said, "Oh shoot!" I pulled over because I hadn't seen him in a minute. We were at a reading together, but it was more of me just watching and listening. We had masks on and stuff, but this time
Mm-hmm.
I pulled over and I saw him and we talked. And this poem is just my reflection of what happened. And this is called "When Two Black Poets Randomly Cross Paths in Our Nation's Capital."
Mm.
And this is for Reuben Jackson. And this is unpublished. Anybody want to publish this? Hey, it's open. All right. Um, you can't just pass a black poet on a gray day, sitting like a saged whole note, a bench's back holding him like a musical scale. You stop, pull over, hit your emergency blinkers, because these moments in these days and times are urgent, pretissimo. And you can't tell this poet how overwhelmed you are, wrestling with love and loss as you wring your hands together, waiting for him to finish his phone call with tender words. As you stroll into his hug, you want to tell him that that he is a sight for soft eyes and salve for sore ears, as the world seems to have gone goose step again, and doubling down is today's default. You both pull back and play black folk catch up. How you doing? How your loved ones? You been writing? What have you been reading? Work? Can't complain. A piece of laughter here, a shoulder slap, a resting hand, and I can't stop smiling, even while a sob hums in my diaphragm, idling between grief and relief. We speak freedom sweets, drape each other in multicolored, comfort quilted arpeggios. Take care. Keep on doing it. Good to see you. One more hug for the road, he says, and I oblige, taking in this touch as we shelter in place, then turn away. My footsteps are drum brush soft to the car. On the way home, everything is gold and 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 gold.
Mm.
Yeah.
We love that. And then, I
Yeah.
mean, you can see the visuals of that, when you run into someone and there's that love and that familiarity. As you mentioned, this is two
Mhm.
black, two black people coming together to, hey, how you doing? How your people doing? How you're, we all know that the exchanging of those greetings and offerings and that whole brotherhood, sisterhood.
Mhm.
It was like prose, though, even the way you work in the dialogue, Derek. Do you feel that your poems are very similar to prose?
Yeah, that's kind of been the shift. I've been writing a lot more prose lately, and it's just the I guess it's the marriage of the two, depending on how I'm feeling that day and how it writes. But I have a group that I workshop with, so we'll see what happens. I may even mess with the form of it and maybe turn it into like a prose looking piece rather than it looking like the vertical rhythm type of poem on a page. So we'll see what
Right.
happens. Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. Well,
Thank you,
please
thank you.
do. What's next?
All right, so I am going to get a little I'm gonna get a little pointed right now. So I'm gonna talk about some recent things. This is a poem that I've submitted several places, and people don't, at least at this time, folks don't want it. But this is called "Proper Collection and Curation of a White Mass Shooter," a primer, 2018, updated.
Something about that might be,
Yeah.
rubbing them the wrong way, but it's
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
but I hear you.
Okay. All right. Here we go. When handling a white mass shooter, please take care. Don't startle him. Approach slowly. No sudden movements. As always, they're more afraid of you than you of them. Brush the hair from the eyes. Apply the handcuffs gently. The wrists so delicate and buoyed to frantic hands. This one could be your son. So apply the slightest pressure. Take the greatest pains not to bump their heads when collecting them into your vehicle. So delicate the trigger fingers, sprinkled with remnants of gunpowder. So tender the skin, nearly translucent with sweat, gray matter, and blood. Please, please, I said careful. You must handle them carefully. Please write fragile in the softest script upon the lapel of their orange jumpsuit. Leave the manacles, leg irons, and instruments of restraint loose. After all, they are human, but so frail, so troubled. Bring him a blanket. Look at him shiver. He must be in shock. You're mistaken. That's no smile. He has no idea what he's done. Secure him safely in the squad car. God forbid he bounce around and hurt himself back there. Who are we to leave him unattended? Wipe his brow. Tell him everything is going to be okay. Anoint him with thoughts and prayers.
And I understand that. And when I said, oh, it must be rubbing them the wrong way, I didn't mean it like, I meant almost like when you're confronted with truth,
Mm-hmm.
so in such a raw manner, right? Like,
Yeah.
we know that many of the editors, they may be of a different demographic. And so they see this and it's like, oh boy,
Mm-hmm.
I can't deal with that. I can't grapple with it. I can't absorb it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know that it's true.
Yeah.
That makes me think about the Buffalo shooter and also the South Carolina. I want to say, was it South Carolina, the church?
Oh yeah. That's it was primarily based on him. I don't even mention his name.
Right.
Uh,
No, yeah, I wouldn't either. No,
yeah.
totally. But
Yeah.
it's
No,
so
that's
crazy. I think they said that he was given breakfast or taken to Burger King or something after that,
yeah.
after he was apprehended. And I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah. They caught him in which is in of course, I can't think of the place now. It's an area where my years ago, my grandma, Shelby, North Carolina. They
Oh,
caught him in
Shelby,
Shelby.
North Carolina. Uh-huh.
Yeah, they caught him there. So he had been on the run from Charleston. But
Charleston.
I always think about that. Like, okay. So,
This poem reminds me of a Patricia Smith poem.
Mm-hmm.
Where she like talks about it's a persona poem from the skinheads, but it's from the skinheads perspective, I believe.
Oh yeah, I teach that poem. I know you're talking about.
And it's like how she's able to humanize this person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, whoa,
Yeah.
and you were saying similar things. It's almost like, okay, you can hear that sarcasm. But then there is, okay, at the end of the day, they did something atrocious, yet they are human. Yet should they be coddled and still treated in a pampered fashion? And like, that's the whole question. Okay, we know it's a human, but it's a human that did something gravely wrong against other humans.
Yeah. And I think it's just the irony of this person gets the benefit of the doubt of being human for doing something, atrocious and utterly inhuman, whereas There was an incident in North Carolina where a little boy got arrested for picking a flower
Mm,
out of someone's yard in a bus stop.
mm,
And they, hemmed him up. You know, he's like
right.
6, 7, 8, and yeah, interesting. Picking a flower. I always think about that.
He's an
Like, huh?
innocent to me. I'm like, that's a baby. That's an
Yeah.
innocent child who saw a flower. He wanted to experience God's
Mm,
beauty. And you're going
yeah.
to arrest him for that? I like the flower will grow back. Mother Earth
Hmm.
is forgiving,
Hmm.
you know?
But yeah, but that's not something you would do to a human being. So he wasn't seen as, a child, a baby, perpetrator,
Perpetrator.
you know.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, but
But Derrick,
but,
I would
yeah,
love for you to share one more piece if you have something you want to share with us.
sure. So I know my mom will be listening to this, and her big thing is, so she challenged me. I write love poems, and so one holiday I asked her what she wanted, and she said, I want a collection of love poems. So
Aw.
I've been working on them, and I have a collection. It's still working, but this is actually a poem that I wrote during the pandemic,
Okay.
and so this is called "What the Sun Said to Me When I Appeared for Our Daily Meeting After Being Inside for Zoom Meetings."
And this would be sun, CSUN.
SUN, the sun, yes, the sun.
Sun. Okay.
All right. There you are, my little brown circuit. You fuel cell of bone, stardust, and ancestry. Let me get a look at you. Bring your face closer. Turn around. Let me drink you in. Got your outside clothes on, huh? Come on, love. Sit with me and breathe. Feels good, huh? My beaming smile breaking bread in the echo of these quiet streets. No, don't explain a damn thing, baby. Don't want to talk? Fine. You want to pray? Fine. Go on. Cry if you want to. Scream, spit, curse, boil over. I'll be over here, my downcast child. Just let me look at you. You still a wonder. You still someone's dream. And your ancestors wild gasp when they witness you. You are their walking wildest dream. Go on, get them breaths in. Yeah, forget that screen time. I missed you. Stay with me as long as you want. Now, you better quit peeking out of that window when you see me next time and just come on out, mask on or off. Come get some of this wattage free love on the house.
Oh, I love that. It's so whimsical. Mm. It's like a love poem. It's like a love poem for the sun.
Yes, it is. And
Oh wow.
I was loving that sun, loving the sun, loving it up.
Oh, that is so cool, Derrick. I just really enjoyed that. Well,
Thank
Derrick, please tell me what's coming up for you. How can we
you.
best support you moving forward, whether it's virtually or in person? Um, yeah.
All right. Well, one of the things that's coming up, I mentioned the anthology, of course, The Future of Black. Well, I will be participating in a reading and a panel discussion entitled The Future of Black 21st Century Second Wave Afrofuturism as a part of the Poetry Society of Virginia's centennial celebration. That's Friday, May 5th, 2023 from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And I'm going to be there with Lynn Lawson. He's leading the panel. He's one of the, of course, one of the editors, of the journal as well. The main man Tim Siebels is going to be part of the panel.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Terry Ellen Cross Davis is going to be
Oh
there. That's
yeah.
my
Some
homie. We both went
really
to
great folks. Oh, she went to American also.
she went to America. We were in the same cohort, as you could say. Yep.
Oh, that's so
Um,
awesome.
Les James is going to be there as well. So it's gonna be dope. I'm excited. So it's at the Richmond, Virginia Main Library. So that's going to be, I don't know, the date is a little off, but it's Friday, May 5th. Even though the flyer at one point says Thursday, May 4th, but it's Friday, May the 5th. So I'm
And
excited.
is this open to the public, or do you have to be a member of the Poetry Society or that to, attend?
Well, as I read the thing, I think it is open to the public. The panel and the reading is actually open to the public, so you can come on through. I think that'll be good.
Nice.
So I'm excited.
And what else, Derrick? Are you doing the summer workshops with Hurston Wright or any other organizations? What's coming up? May, June, July.
I'm actually at a what is it, to be determined point right now. I'm still finishing up the semesters, but I'm definitely open for other opportunities. There may be one where I hope, we'll see. I may be working it's a challenge for me. It's my first time doing this. There is a poetry workshop that a friend of mine teaches where he works with some elders who are dealing with Alzheimer's, but they're doing poetry workshops. So this will kind of be a challenge. So I'm going to get some training on how to actually take part in these workshops. So that will be later in the summer. And yeah, we will see what else is down the line. Yeah.
That's so awesome. And that's a great place to be, because that means, when you're open, you're really open. And that means, hey, you never know what may pop up and what opportunity may be right around, the corner for you, because you've left some room for it.
Yeah, most definitely. So that's where I am. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And so, Derrick, last but certainly not least, can you please give the good folks who are listening your social media, where we can find you, follow you, and also where we can pick up copies of your book, Wisdom Teeth, and also your chapbook entitled On All Fronts?
All right, let's see. Let me run it down. So you can hop on my website. It is DerrickWestonBrown.com, DerrickWeston Brown.com. My Instagram is the original Derrick Weston Brown. So you can find me on IG that way. I'm generally just Derrick Weston Brown on Facebook. You can find me there as well. And if you want to purchase Wisdom Teeth, you can always hop onto pmpress.org. That's where it's available, but you can also find it through other bookstores, because it definitely is on order through most independent or indie-bound bookstores. If you want to get your hands on All Fronts, you can find that through, this is kind of a tongue twister of a publisher, but the publisher is Upper Rubber Boot Press. So say that 3 times fast and see what you get. But it's actually, the chapbook is actually it's a collection. And so it's like 3 chapbooks in one collected volume. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of the name. Give me 1 second. And so the text itself.
Would that be the Floodgate Poetry Series?
Yes. Or thank you. That is thank you. Yes. The Floodgate Poetry Series. Yes, Floodgate Poetry Series Volume 5. And
Volume 5, okay.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Yes, and so my chapbook is also with the poet Sarah Rebecca Warren has a chapbook in that volume, as well as T.R. Hummer. So you can get 3 chapbooks, for the price of 1 general poetry volume. So, hey, it's pretty dope.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, Derrick, it's certainly been a pleasure to speak with you and catch up with you. I wish you all the best with everything you're doing. I know you'll continue to stay prolific and busy and productive. And please also keep in touch with Nerdacity on everything you're doing, and would love to, of course, continue to support you in your work.
All right. Thank you so much.
And you were just listening to episode 48 of Nerdacity Podcast, featuring poet Derrick Weston Brown. I hope you'll visit his website at DerrickWestonBrown.com and check out some of his books and his upcoming poetry events. Follow Nerdacity on all social media platforms, including Instagram at Nerdacity, Facebook page, Nerdacity Podcast with DuEwa, and Twitter, Nerdacity Pod 1. You can also follow me on Twitter, the host and creator of Nerdacity, DuEwa Frazier 1, and check out my author, artist, poetry, and consulting website at DuEwaFrazier.com. Thanks so much for listening. Take care.